中国绘画的主流按照题材划分，不外乎人物、山水、走兽和花鸟等4种类别。
Chinese paintings can be classified into 4 main genres according to their subject matter: figure painting, landscapes, animal paintings, and bird and flower paintings.
其中以人物画起源最早，山水画则由人物画分支而出，其后才有走兽画和花鸟画的演出。
Figure painting has the longest history, followed closely by the great tradition of landscape painting, which evolved out of figure painting. Bird and flower paintings, along with animal paintings, evolved to maturity at a much later date in the history of Chinese painting.
中国从3代起至秦汉间，就有许多雕刻器物上的纹饰是以花草和鸟兽为题材，主要是做装饰之用。从长沙出土的3界图帛画，便可以见到花鸟画的具体图形。
The earliest remnants of bird and flower motifs in Chinese art can be found in sculpture from the Three Kingdoms period, which were adorned with bird and floral patterns. A more definite prototype of bird and flowers in pictorial art is revealed in this cloth painting excavated in the ancient city of Changsha. 到了唐朝，绘画逐渐超脱了装饰和宣传的意味，而进入纯艺术的阶段。花鸟画在此时才开始培育滋长。晚唐画家刁光应树立起对花鸟绘画的研究风气，不但为唐代花鸟画奠定了基础，其成就更直接影响到后代的花鸟画。With the arrival of the Tang Dynasty, there was a new prevailing atmosphere of artistic freedom, as the formulaic restrictions on painting of the previous era disappeared. Thus, during the Tang Dynasty, the genre of bird and flower paintings first appeared, and by the later Tang it was given a great boost by the works of the artist Diao Guanying. His paintings not only served to firmly establish bird and flower art as an independent genre in painting, they also were to play a significant role in setting the style and standards for the generation of artists that followed.
五代虽不是一个太平统一的局面，但花鸟画的发展已到了成长茁壮的时期。
Because of overall political strife and upheaval, the Five Dynasties was not a period of great prosperity for China. Nevertheless, the development of bird and flower painting continued to make progress.
当时刁光应的后辈黄权以双钩填彩的画法描写在宫中所见的珍奇异卉，其崇尚写实的画风不但在五代有极重的分量，更成为宋代画院的标准。
One of Diao Guanying's top students active during the Five Dynasties period was the bird and flower painter Huang Quan. As a member of the Imperial Painting Academy, Huang Quan had access to the emperor's private collection of rare and exotic birds and flowers, which often would serve as the subject matter for his paintings. In his treatment of form, reveals a very meticulous care for detail and a very strong wire-like outline or double hook line, which his style became known for. His paintings not only set stylistic standards at the Academy during his own time, they served as stylistic models for the academic painters of the following Song Dynasty as well.
另一位花鸟画家徐熙，较注重笔墨的自然妙趣，取材多为江南野景，先以落墨写枝叶蕊萼，后略复色即成。 而有江南莫古画法之称，遂与黄泉成为花鸟画之两大脉，同为后世所宗。
Another influential painter of this time was Xu Xi. In the treatment of his leaves, flowers, and branches, Xu Xi has emphasized the tonal and textural effect produced by his applying color over his faint ink sketchings. With the absence of the Huang Quan's prominent outline, Xu Xi became known as the master of the boneless style, which came to represent the stylistic counterpart of the Huang school in bird and flower paintings.
到了宋朝，更因为政府的提倡、帝王的爱好，不但扩充了画院的制度，更设立了翰林图画院，罗致天下优秀的画家来从事艺术的研究工作。连宋徽宗自己本身都是个出色的花鸟画家，因此花鸟画得以成为宋代绘画的主流。
During the Song dynasty, the imperial court, with the personal endorsement of the emperor, initiated programs for the promotion of the painting arts throughout China. Out of the efforts to further expand the system of painting institutes, the Han Lin Academy of Painting was established, where some of the most outstanding artists from all over the country were enrolled. Also, it was during this period that bird and flower paintings became firmly established in the mainstream of the painting arts, and to the extent that the Emperor Huizong himself became known for his excellence at bird and flower paintings.
当时的院画多以黄派的双钩填彩画法为主流，而徐派则渗融了黄派画风中的艳丽色彩，用笔自染而完成了墨古法的格式。 其取材多为乡野之景。
In the Song dynasty, the so-called double-hooking color style of the Huang school dominated academic paintings. Along with the boneless style of the Xu Xi school, this inclusively represented the majority of painters producing bird and flower paintings. Of course, the overall majority of painters in the Song were devoted to landscapes, for which this period is most famous.
元朝立国偏重武功，因而废除了画院制度，一时宫廷画家流落民间，因而造成仿古风气的养成及文人画的兴起。
The Yuan dynasty, under the Mongols, was greatly affected by the warrior mentality, which saw to the abolishment of the painting institutions and academies, with the court painters left in self-exile, often far removed from the palace. Out of this period, a growing number of the intellectual class became interested in calligraphy and painting, and were turning to works of past masters for their inspiration and stylistic model.
由于院派的形式带到野派的画风，而形成融合的趋势，所以在取材上更扩大梅、兰、竹、菊的范围，遍及其他的花卉。
In the realm of bird and flower painting of the Yuan, one finds a unique merging of artistic currents and new styles. Concurrently, during this time, a new range of subject matter began appearing in bird and flower paintings, including plums and the plum blossom, orchids, chrysanthemums, and especially bamboo.
直到明太祖朱元璋推翻了元朝，才又恢复画院的制度。而元代仿古一派所传宋画的遗风，仍是相继延续。
When the Imperial Painting Academy was finally re-established with the founding of the Ming Dynasty, the majority of its painters were still preoccupied with imitating the styles of the highly revered Song masters. 当时在画院中有以林良为首，而较偏向写意画法的院派写意画。
另外，若干在野文人所做的花鸟画，因受元代文人画的影响，亦有文人写意派之称。其画风系以文人细墨，只讲笔墨情趣，不求写实逼真，因而开辟写意画法之新途。
One of the several different stylistic currents to appear during the Ming Dynasty was fostered from within the ranks of the Imperial Academy, with the paintings of Lin Liang. His distinctive use of ink, fresh, unrestrained brushwork, and impressionistic treatment of his subjects were stylistic qualities that paralleled the aesthetic aims of the literati or scholar painters. These were artists who, out of principle, had chosen to remain aloof from the academy since their emergence during the Yuan dynasty. Nevertheless, out of the eclectic atmosphere of the Ming, the works of Lin Liang and others served to pave the way for the development of a more expressionistic style in bird and flower painting.
Qing 清朝由于政治上的因素，有压制文人思想的现象，所以在绘画方面仍然以延续古风为能事。
The founding of the Qing dynasty brought forth strict measures aimed at an overall intellectual suppression and literary persecution. In this repressive atmosphere, an increased number of artists followed the trend set during the Ming of imitating and copying the style of the ancient masters of the Song.
当时花鸟画可分为灵骨及写意两派。灵骨派即以周之勉的勾花点叶半工半写法较为盛行。
Bird and flower paintings of the Qing can be divided into two basic stylistic groups, the orthodox school and the individualist or expressionist school. The orthodox style can be seen in Zhou Zhimian's paintings, which reveal both fine lines and texture, as well as loose washes of color.
写意派的花鸟，清代更胜于明代，其中两大怪杰石涛及拔大山人，他们所做的花果、虫鸟、竹石等，都造型奇特，笔墨狂纵，极具浓烈的自我意识。
The individualist style, sometimes called the style of the eccentrics, gained in popularity during the Qing. Two of the most famous bird and flower painters associated with this style were Shi Tao and Bada Shanren, both of whom produced outstanding works of flowers, fruit, insects, birds, and bamboo and rocks in their own very personal and expressive manner.
清代中期时，有位意大利籍的传教士郎世宁，以其西洋写实观点所做的中国画形似逼真，成为中西合璧的新形式，但对后世之影响不大。
By the middle of the Qing dynasty, the growing number of Westerners to arrive in China included an Italian missionary named Lang Shining. He was also a painter who practices art producing paintings of birds and flowers and of horses, for which he is most famous. His style represents a unique blending of Chinese subject matter and technique with a traditional Western perspective and use of foreshortening.
民国之后，由于观念的变迁，东西文化交流频繁，花鸟画的发展也就呈现了新的景象。
With the founding of the Republic of China and the increase of cultural rapport with the West that followed, Chinese bird and flower painting, with art in general, was ushered across the threshold of modernity, marking a new epoch of artistic creativity in the 20th century.
对花鸟画的起源与演进有了全盘的了解与认识后，接着我们来介绍绘作国画所使用的基本工具——墨和砚台。
Upon having presented you with a general survey of the origin and development of Chinese bird and flower paintings, we would now like to introduce some of the basic painting implements. And here we will focus on the use of the Chinese inkstone and inkstick.
在我国国画中，墨是很重要的。好的墨直细色黑且不易变直，因此选择墨时要注意几个原则。
Chinese ink plays a key role in Chinese painting. The following criteria are useful in selecting a high-quality Chinese ink stick.
第一，看起来墨色深黑而富有光泽；第二，重量轻；第三，味道芬芳；第四，轻敲时声音清脆；第五，胶质不重。
First, a high-quality ink stick will be dark black with a shiny appearance. Second, it will be light in weight. Third, it should have a pleasant aroma. Fourth, it should produce a pleasant sound when tapped. And fifth, its glue content should not be too high.
砚台的材料有很多种，其中以石头砚台最为普遍，应该选用实质细腻、不渗水、易发墨者为佳。
While Chinese ink stones can be made of a variety of materials, the most common is stone. The best choice is a fine stone that is not too porous, and one which makes the grinding process convenient.
磨墨时，先在砚台上加点清水，手持墨时必须直而正，然后在砚台上慢慢地磨。
Prior to the grinding of the ink stick, first put some pure water onto the ink slab. Then hold the ink stick upright and start grinding the ink stick steadily and slowly.
磨墨不可心急，不能为求快而用力压墨，在轻度压力下，慢慢磨出的墨色直细且黑。过于用力的话，会使沾水部分的墨崩裂。
Grinding the ink stick calls for concentration and patience. Using only light pressure, slowly and gently continue grinding the ink stick until a fine quality of ink is produced. 此外，还需注意两件事：第一，不可把墨放在磨好的墨汁中，以免墨慢慢地被侵蚀变直。第二，砚台使用完毕后要充分洗净，以免上面残留墨渣，影响以后食用时的墨色。At this point, one should be careful of two things. One is after you have completed the grinding process, don't leave the ink stick in contact with the mixed ink or water, which will cause unwanted wastage. Also, be sure to thoroughly wash the ink stone each time after using it.
认识了墨和砚台之后，在人物篇中，我们将继续介绍国画用纸和颜料。
Having now introduced the use of the Chinese inkstick and inkstone, we will present the use of paper and pigments during the figure painting portion of our presentation.
现在，我们就来示范花鸟画的基本画法。首先介绍牡丹花的写意画法。
Now we would like to demonstrate some of the basic techniques used in bird and flower paintings, and beginning with an impressionistic rendering of peonies.
以柔好笔的中锋，由中央花瓣着手向外画，花瓣往中心包拢，而外缘的花瓣则自然舒展开。
Using the center blade of a soft bristled brush, we'll first brush in the centralmost petals of the peony before treating its outer petals. Here we must remember that these petals should appear to close in towards the flower.
牡丹花的花瓣靠花心处色泽较深，外缘较淡些。画的时候，笔尖部分的颜色浓重，略为轻压即可产生浓淡层次的变化。这就是写意画法潇洒的笔墨意趣。以写意画法来画牡丹，更能表现出牡丹花浓艳中的清逸之态。
Also, the center cluster of petals should be darker in tone than the tonal quality of the outer petals. The density variance between light and dark is determined and controlled by the pressure we exert on our brush point. More pressure produces darker tones, and vice versa. The graceful elegance of the peony flower especially lends itself to this particular stylistic treatment, which give free play to the inherent qualities revealed through brush and ink.
在大花的下方，再画一朵含苞初绽的小花，技法与大花相同。
Using the same technique, we'll add one more bud just below the half-open flower.
《花朵的形貌完成后，接着勾出花瓣上的细纹，一瓣一瓣的描绘，增加花瓣的真实感。
After having finished the contour brushwork, we will now add fine lines on each petal to achieve the textural effect of the real flower.
« 然后在花瓣上再染一层淡黄色，使花朵平添鲜活的光彩，更觉得摇曳生姿。
Next, we will apply a light yellow color to the petals, which will enhance their appearance of fresh vitality.
接着染花心，先蘸黄色如满笔腹，再用笔尖蘸绿色，一笔捺下，两色自然融合。
Then we will color the center portion of the peony. In this process, first dip the brush in yellow pigment, followed by green pigment. Then apply the brush to the flower, allowing the two colors to combine naturally on contact with the paper.
画完花心，再画叶子，以笔的侧锋向外推刷，要浓淡有致，重叠疏散得宜。同时要注意叶子的合理生态。先画靠近花朵的老叶，色泽较深，再画较淡的嫩叶，在变化中求其调和。 必能生动地衬托出花朵的娇艳。
With the flower portion completed, we can now turn our attention to the leaves and stems of the peony. First, holding the brush at a slant, make your strokes in an outward direction. A flower's natural beauty depends on its vitality, and the stems and leaves of a flower are its life-sustaining and support system. Therefore, in this stage of our painting, careful attention should be given to the proper distribution of the overlapping leaves, as well as to the tonal and shading variances. The leaves closest to the flower should be darker. The younger leaves should be lighter in color tone. And again, regardless of varying shapes and positions of the leaves, The overall composition must achieve unity and balance.
接着用较深的墨色勾出叶脉，要注意叶脉的生态。
Now we will add the vein-like lines to each leaf, like we did with the flower petals.
含苞的这朵小花，叶子的颜色也要表现出柔嫩的感觉。
For the newly sprouted leaves around the bud, care should be taken to depict their fresh and tender quality.
画出叶子的外形后，在叶间再染上一些红色，更能显得鲜嫩。
After shading the contour of the leaves, we can add a touch of red ink to the very tips, enhancing their lifelike and fresh tenderness.
接着画小花的枝干，要注意合乎枝干生长的原理。
As we proceed on to the flower's stem, we first should be familiar with how the growth of a flower stem appears in nature before actually painting the first stroke.
大花的枝干较粗，颜色深些，运笔时以笔的中锋向下画，并在上面点缀叶芽。
As the flower stem of the larger flower is thicker, we will give it a darker color. Then using the center point of the brush with upward strokes, we will add small points at the top to indicate small sprouts.
另外，再画一枝花芽，简单几笔勾出即可。
Then with a few quick strokes, we'll add one small young flower bud.
最后，在花心的部分点上花蕊，花心深处蕊珠丛生，呈放射状。每株顶端点上花粉，点好花蕊，这幅画就完成了。
Then finally, we'll paint the stamen and pistils radiating in a cluster from the center of the flower. Then adding flower powder to each flower will complete our peony painting.
以写意法画牡丹，在笔法变化中，更能表现出牡丹花不俗的风韵来。
By virtue of the rich variety of brushstrokes in the impressionistic style, it makes it especially suitable for painting and depicting the outstanding appearance of a peony.
介绍完牡丹花的画法，接着为您示范菊花的画法。
Having just demonstrated techniques for painting the peony, now we would like to present the essential techniques for painting chrysanthemums.
首先以刚健毫的笔蘸墨勾花瓣，两笔画成一半，由花心画起，逐渐向外。花心处的花瓣短而厚实，瓣尖向内合，外侧花瓣则略为疏长。
First, using a stiff bristled brush and ink, brush in the contour of the petals, using 2 strokes for each leaf. Here we should begin at the center of the flower, where the petals are shorter, denser, and appear to close inward, while the outer petals are longer and not as densely distributed.
画花瓣的时候， 要注意每一笔都得明确利落，半尖为钝更能增加趣味。构图的时候，花朵的位置要配合画面的美感，要注意花朵俯仰的角度和方向。
Also here, the petals should be clearly defined by their contour. At the same time, we'll add a touch of dark shading at the tips of the petals to render them more lifelike. This tip shading is given simply by allowing our brush to remain on the paper a little longer. Here again, we should pay attention to proportion and positioning so as to achieve a well-balanced and unified composition.
画完花朵，再画花梗，以遒劲的比例由上而下画出。
Having completed the sketching of the flower portion, we will proceed on to sketch the stems. The flower stems should be done with an energetic stroke moving downward from the top.
接着画叶子，菊花的叶子是长圆形，列为5瓣，用刚柔并济的笔蘸墨绿色颜料画老叶，淡墨绿色画新叶。以笔的侧锋刷出菊叶间杂交错、正侧反折的生动姿态，用笔简洁，笔意潇洒，充分衬托出花朵的秀逸。
And next are the leaves. These leaves are long and round in shape, with each having 5 blade-like sections. The older leaves should be dark green, while the newer ones should be lighter. Holding the brush at a slight slant, render the leaves in an overlapping manner, and in a variety of sizes and positions.
"在画的下方，点缀2只神态不同的小鸡，以侧锋画出头部和身体。等略干之后，再来仔细勾画。
Now in the lower portion of our painting, we'll sketch in 2 small chickens, each having a different posture and position. Again with the brush at a slight slant, first contour their heads and bodies, then allow the ink to dry before adding any details.
"现在来染花朵的颜色，用柔毫笔蘸黄色，一瓣一瓣地将颜料填入花瓣中。染好了的花朵显得神采奕奕、鲜活亮丽，颇有真实感。
Then, using a soft bristled brush, cover all the flower petals with yellow ink. This should serve to reflect the bright vitality of real chrysanthemums.
染完花瓣，接着以刚借好的笔蘸浓墨来勾叶脉。要注意，在叶片干透之前勾出，叶片与叶脉才能自然密合。平时要多观察各种植物的生态与形状，作画时才能成竹在胸，随手画来即可生动地再现自然。叶脉一一勾成后，略加修饰，再点上叶芽和苔点。
Then, after the ink has completely dried, use a stiff bristled brush with thick ink to paint the veins on the leaves. After the veins are done, then trim the leaves and add on tiny leaf sprouts and spots of moss and lichen. As we are adding on these details, it would be a good time to offer this reminder. In addition to developing technical skill with the brush, an artist must invest time spent in developing a sensitive eye for observation. In this case, of the immense variety of form, color, and texture of flowers and plants.
勾完叶脉，再勾小鸡的线条，简单几笔绘出嘴、眼、翅、爪。一只小鸡低头觅食，另一只则仰天叫唤，神态栩栩如生。画小鸡的时候，了解鸡的身体构造，较能掌握动态，不致失真。这就要靠平日多加观察与练习了。
With this in mind, we'll begin to add detail features to the two little chickens. Using simple brush strokes, give the chickens beaks, eyes, wings, and feet. With one pecking the ground, the other is crowing to the sky, and both should be rendered from previous observation and practice to ensure their lifelike appearance.
然后再画上竹篱笆做背景，先画直竿，再画横竿，笔笔意道，表达出采菊东篱下的悠然趣味。
And then, in the background, we'll add a bamboo fence. By first setting the vertical poles, followed by the horizontal ones. With the painting nearly finished now, our scene should begin to evoke the peaceful atmosphere of the countryside, where one might find a poet stopping to take in the fresh beauty of chrysanthemums.
地面上点缀些碎石块，添些土色，增加土地的质感。
For a final touch, we will add earthy colors and pebbles spread sporadically on the ground for a richer textural effect.
这幅画完成了，菊花的傲骨和淡泊进入画中。
And now our completed painting should depict the elegant grace and natural beauty of the chrysanthemum.
了解菊花的基本画法后，我们要为您示范老鹰的画法。
Following the presentation of techniques for painting chrysanthemums, now we'll demonstrate the essential techniques for painting hawks.
先用大支的柔毫笔画出老鹰的身体，要注意老鹰身上各部位羽毛的差异。在复翼相连的地方，羽毛柔细，色泽较淡；尾部羽毛色泽较深。运笔时用破笔以转折、横劈的技巧来表现力道。墨色的浓淡也要调配得宜。
First, using a large, soft bristled brush, we'll paint the contour of the bird's body. As we fill in the body area, pay attention to apply the proper degree of shading to resemble the tonal variation found in the feathers of a hawk. The feathers around the wing joints should be light in tone and appear soft in texture. The tail feathers, on the other hand, should be darker and appear stiffer. Also make use of the effects created by the broken strokes and turning strokes with our brushwork.
接着蘸蓝色颜料，勾出鹰嘴和鹰眼的位置。
The next step is to brush in the beak and add the eyes in blue. 再蘸褐色来染老鹰的脸部。 Now we'll color in the face portion in brown.
然后再详细地描绘出鹰的头部，强调它独特的额头，并刷上细毛。
Followed by completing the head area, while emphasizing the striking feature of its forehead.
再用一支细笔蘸墨，仔细地勾画鹰嘴，并点上鼻孔。
For treating the details of its beak, we will use a very fine bristled brush.
继续修饰嘴和眼眶，添补上墨色后，再来点睛。点睛后神采即出。
Next, we will finish the beak and then turn to the orbital cavity around the eyes and then the pupils and the eyes themselves, giving the bird its intense spirit.
接着再蘸橙褐色颜料来绘染鹰爪，由腿部的下端绘出鹰爪的形状，要注意爪趾分布的位置。
For the feet and claws, we will use a lighter brown pigment. The contour of the feet extends from the lower leg, with the claws properly spaced and proportioned.
然后用一支刚见好的笔蘸浓墨来勾勒鹰爪。要在鹰爪还没干透之前勾出指节，并勾出尖锐且微弯成钩状的指甲。 由于老鹰是靠爪子来绝获小动物果腹的，所以要强调出鹰爪的强健有力。
Using a stiff bristled brush to draw the claws, adding the small knot-like joints before the ink is completely dry. The hook-shaped talons should appear very sharp and powerful, remembering that this bird is a very skilled predator by nature.
“接下来再画老鹰的翅膀，蘸墨后以笔的侧锋刷出张开的左翼。画的时候要注意羽毛着生在骨架上所排列的情形。一间较大只的羽毛，可以用大笔以侧锋破笔刷出，淋漓挥洒，墨色浓重，具有豪放的趣味。画完左翼后，继续再添补些墨色，略作修饰。
Now we can start painting the wings, beginning with the left wing. First, soak the brush in Chinese ink, and then holding it at a slant, allow the brush to follow the contour of the outspread left wing. Then with a large soft bristled brush, again held in a slanting position, paint the dark prominent feathers at the wingtip. Here, pay attention to the overlapping order of the wing feathers, which are rooted along the bone framework of the wing. Again, thick ink may be used for the wing.
“然后在左翼的前方，以柔毫笔蘸褐色染绘出右翼，再蘸墨色加染出浓密的羽毛，再用大支的笔以侧锋刷出一间大而黑的羽毛。画翅膀的时候，要注意飞翔中的翅膀伸展开来的角度，才能掌握住翅膀即将伸下的动感。”
Again, using a large, soft bristled brush and dark brown pigment, paint the right wing. Then using darker ink, texture the wing feathers. With a large brush held in a slanting position, paint the dark prominent feathers of the wing tip. Again, whenever depicting the outstretched wings of a bird, pay particular attention to the angle and span of the wing spread, so as to convey the appearance of movement during flight.
最后，用笔蘸橙红色的颜料染老鹰的眼睛及脸部。染好之后，这只正义探爪、见猎欣喜的老鹰就完成了。
Then in the final step, give the bird's face and eyes a touch of brilliant orange, which when combined with the outstretched wings and the open talons, will further enhance the intensity of the hawk as a powerful predator of the wilds.
最后，我们来介绍几幅历代的花鸟画名作。这幅《河与鹅》是明代宫廷画家晋中三绝之一的边文静所画，他是明代画院派花鸟画的鼻祖。此画明暗处理极佳，鹅的表情神采奕奕，莲蓬饱满，极为生动有趣。
In the final segment of this presentation, we will survey some of the masterpieces of traditional Chinese bird and flower painting produced throughout China's history. The first work we'll look at, entitled Lotus and Geese, was painted by Bian Wenjin, one of only 3 palace painters of the Ming Dynasty. Here the artist has complemented the high-spirited expression found in the geese with the equally rich elegance of the lotus, a stylistic trait that made Bian Wenjin the pioneer of bird and flower paintings during his own time.
这幅画中有5种成双的吉禽：鹤、凤、鹅、鸳鸯和鸟，所以称为五轮图，是清代陈鼎的作品。画中景物动静得宜，格局富丽，逼真生动，更寓意着长寿幸福的好兆头，是一幅热闹吉祥的好画。
The next painting is entitled Five Pairs and is one of the masterpieces by the painter Chen Ding of the Qing Dynasty. Depicting 5 pairs of birds and waterfowl, including cranes, phoenixes, geese, mandarin ducks, and birds, is rich in symbolic meaning. Stylistically, this painting is noted for its refined and elegant portrayal of nature and its well-ordered composition, which are characteristic of the best of Qing Dynasty paintings.
这幅五轮图是清代画家沈南平所作。画中双鹤、凤凰、鸳鸯、画眉、黄莺，虽然都是成双成对的，但是此画的布局与构图都非常的完整而不落俗套，十分难得。
In this painting, also entitled Five Pairs, and also from the Qing Dynasty, is a depiction of the same theme and similar subject matter. Here we have pairs of cranes, phoenix, mandarin ducks, thrushes, and orioles. However, in this case, the artist Shen Nanping has distinctly set his subjects in a vacuum-like space, isolated from the real world, but nevertheless has maintained tight compositional unity and balance.
这幅锦鸡图是当代画家于仲林的作品。于仲林从参考古人作品与写生自然花鸟中创出新貌。他专攻工笔花鸟，偶尔放笔写意。这幅画色彩淡雅，细腻动人，再以草丛、芦苇陪衬，堪称精品。
This painting of pheasants is by one of the most renowned contemporary artists of our time, Yu Zhonglin. His works all bear the mark of his highly personal style that is combined with his thorough familiarity of all the masterpieces throughout the history of Chinese painting. Sometimes painting in a loose impressionistic style, most of his works display a highly refined, delicate treatment of his subjects with techniques developed through years of actual sketches made outdoors.
这幅花鸟图是晚清时大画家任乙所画。任乙早年作画肤色厚重，白描传神，而后变为清丽流畅，古法突兀。此画线条流畅，肤色明艳，画面结构轻浑交割，颇为奇丽，充满俊逸的清趣。
This bird and flower masterpiece was painted by the artist Ren Yi of the late Qing dynasty. In his early years, Ren Yi favored the use of rich colors that were composed in a tapestry effect of elegant refinement. Later on in his artistic career, his style shifted towards a greater simplicity and linear detail, with the main focus on a well-structured composition. His masterpieces indeed leave a striking impression on the viewer even to this day.
这是当代丁昭明的《紫藤图》。丁昭明出身绘画世家，不但画技优异，并精研画理。这幅画讲求点景，注重疏密前后明暗的安排，表现得体，可圈可点。
This masterpiece featuring purple ivy is also by a well-known contemporary painter of the Republic of China, Ding Zhaoming. Miss Ding is from a family of artists that goes back several generations. She is very well versed in painting theory as well as being highly proficient in the art itself, as the rich textures and color of this particular painting suffice to show.
历代的花鸟画名作就介绍到这里。纵观花鸟画自3代发展迄今，可谓气象万千，灿烂辉煌。正如我中华文化的悠久绵延一般，是无数前人的困厄辛劳所塑成。缅怀之余，更当为它的延续尽一己之力，使中国传统绘画得以发扬光大，真善尽美。
This now concludes our presentation of traditional Chinese bird and flower painting. As we have seen from the time of the Three Kingdoms period, the development of bird and flower painting has continued to advance to brilliant heights of success due to the efforts of generation after generation of hardworking and dedicated artists. And now it is up to the contemporary artists of the Republic of China to dedicate their artistic efforts in contribution towards the future continuation of this rich tradition in the art of Chinese painting.